Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some spaghetti and meatballs, kind of a mozzarella Italian sausage meatball, and some focaccia. Evie has soccer tryouts today, and so we have to do a super early kind of a dinner. This is very early for us. So we're going to start with 2 slices of sandwich bread, and we're going to kind of coat them in some heavy cream so they get nice and soggy. So we're going to make kind of a bread paste with them, and that's going to be the binder for our spaghetti and meatballs. So we're going to let them soak up here, and you just want to make sure that they're not like completely dripping, but more like a sponge. So I've got those in here, and we're going to add 2 eggs. So we've got 1, 2, and now we're going to get our seasonings in here. We've got some basil leaves. We're going to add about a tablespoon of dried basil, about a tablespoon of dried Italian spices, and a tablespoon of dried oregano. And these are going to be our spices in for our meatballs. And then we're going to add in a tablespoon of garlic salt. And this is going to be our kind of seasoned paste for our meatballs. I'm going to grab a baking sheet out so that when it is time to shape them, I'll have them ready. Okay. Now I'm going to go in here and we're going to take all of these seasonings, the eggs and the milk, and we are going to turn it into a paste that is going to be the binder for our meatballs. I'll give it a good smush through. Make sure you kind of break up any chunks of bread in there, especially the crust. You'll want to use, again, for the bread, use a soft bread. You don't want to use a chewy bread like a sourdough or a thick Italian because those crusts won't dissolve as well. Now we're going to add in a pound of Italian sausage and a pound of ground beef. And I'm going to mush these together pushing through with my hands, getting all of that seasoned paste in there until we've got our meatball dough formed. And then we're going to add in some mozzarella cheese so they're a nice kind of cheesy meatball. Be delicious. I always like to change up my meatballs every so often, so I'm not making the same one. I was almost thinking about doing an Italian meatloaf with spaghetti, but I figured that might actually take a bit too long to cook because a meatloaf takes a little bit longer to cook than a meatball. And we're trying to get everyone fed before we head off for soccer tryouts and soccer practice. Okay, so we're smushing everything through. Make sure you've got this nice paste. There we go. And perfect. It's all mixed up. And you just want to make sure your herbs get spread everywhere kind of evenly. So now that we've got our kind of herbs and our meat in there, I'm going to reach in with my clean hand and I'm just going to grab a big handful of mozzarella. This is about a cup. And we're going to mix that cup of mozzarella cheese into our meatball. You don't want to go too crazy with the cheese or you'll have your meatballs won't hold their form as well. But about a cup is perfect to give you a little cheesy goodness in there. And then we're going to mix these around. Perfect. Okay. And I'm going to turn my water down here just a bit. We'll throw our noodles in a second. But let's shape up our meatballs so I don't have to wash my hands twice and get rid of our shells. So I'm just going to do kind of my regular sized meatballs today. Last time I did jumbo meatballs, which were very delicious. But we're going to just do our regular one since they'll cook up a little bit faster. And we're just going to kind of roll them size of like a golf ball. They do shrink a little bit when they bake up, so you don't have to worry about them being super huge. But I find, a bigger meatball means less rolling, which is means a lot less roll. our work.
You have a question? Early dinner today?
Early dinner today. Yes, we are kind of on a time crunch. We've got soccer tryouts tonight for my 9-year-old, and then my older daughter has soccer practice like right afterwards, but they're at the same park. So I don't want to have to do like the back and forth. So we're just going to stay out there and be at the park for a good long time. But we won't be home until after 9, which means dinner now. Otherwise, dinner wouldn't happen till super late. So getting it in early. All of my kids are probably going to think that this was lunch. Every time I do an early dinner like this, they always around like 9 o'clock, 8:45, 9 o'clock. So what's for dinner? And I'm like, we already had dinner. And they're like, no, that was lunch. So they're not quite used to early dinners, which was probably regular dinner time for most people in America. But you know, when you have kids in youth sports, those sports schedules really dictate when you guys can eat, especially because I really focus that we all eat together as a family as opposed to piecemeal. So we all sit down at the table, eat the same dinner together. And so it isn't always at the most, convenient time, but it works for our family. Here we go. I will say today was definitely a busy day for us, and we had dentist appointment this morning, followed by Teddy went for like a speech evaluation because he's got some like articulation errors, and then I picked up my older daughter from high school. Then we had dress rehearsal for the talent show for my other daughter, now tryouts and soccer practice. So very, very full day. Especially when we're winding down at the end of the year. I can't wait till summer. It's like less than 2 weeks away, and summer break is here for us. So that is very exciting. No more waking up super early in the morning. Okay, I'm gonna get these rolled out and we'll get them popped in the oven. And then we'll get our noodles started and we'll make our focaccia and then our sauce. So we're winding down. But these are going to be delicious. You can see as I roll them, the nice kind of cheese, the mozzarella cheese in them. That will just give you a nice kind of ooey gooey deliciousness in our meatballs. Okay, and a steel pinch off, so this one's about the same size. I always try to keep my meatballs all around the same size so they cook up evenly. I'm gonna give my hands a quick rinse here, and then we're gonna pop these guys in the oven. Okay. So I have my oven set to 400 because that's what we're going to cook our focaccia on. But these will bake perfectly at 400 as well. And these need about 20 to 30 minutes to bake. I always can give them like a little touch test, and if they don't push down, then they're ready. So we'll let those start cooking up. And then we're going to make our focaccia, and we'll get our noodles going here. So I'm going to turn my water back up. We're going to add our full pack of spaghetti noodles in. And I'll take half out. We are going to break them. That way they submerge all at one time and cook at one time. So sorry to any of the Italians out there. Here we go. Get those little pieces in. There. Get my little pasta stir. Give it just a good stir around. Make sure none of those noodles stick on the bottom. And then I'm going to turn my heat up even more so it goes back to a boil faster. Let's get our focaccia out. So I'll bring it over, my spices and stuff over here. And then I have my dough proofing in the oven. So I just did a quick, I always call this my quick like 1 hour focaccia, which uses some yeast, dough in it. But we did a first proof of about 30 minutes. Then I put it out in a nice long kind of rectangle here. We're going to pull off our little wrap here. There we go. And now we're going to put some olive oil on it, do our little dimples down, and then we're going to season it up. Okay. So we're going to give a nice drizzle. You want about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The dough has 2 tablespoons in it, but what makes a focaccia so nice is the crunch that you get from the olive oil. So I'm going to give a nice little smooth around. And then this is the fun part. We're going to do our little dimple. And this is going to create that nice kind of texture of the focaccia, give you those crispy bumps in it. There we go. Make sure it goes just all around. And then today I decided I was going to do kind of like a pepperoni focaccia, which I thought would be delicious. So we're going to use a little bit of Italian seasoning, just a light sprinkle over the top. And then I'm going to use a little bit of garlic salt. So it'll have kind of still a garlic bread taste to it. Nice sprinkle over the top. You don't need a lot. And then we're going to stick a couple pepperonis underneath some cheese and then a couple on top. And we're just kind of spread them around. So not quite a pizza, but a delicious pepperoni focaccia, which kind of gives you a little bit. And then you can, what I love to do is dip it into our marinara sauce with the spaghetti. So it will just be delicious. Here we go. So we'll do a couple here, and then we're going to do a couple on after we do some cheese to kind of have a nice layer of it. We're not going to do a super thick layer of cheese. We're going to do some mozzarella. Do a little bit more. So we don't want, it's not a pizza, but more of a really cheesy focaccia. And then we'll throw on a couple more pepperonis on top, kind of in some of those blank spots so they all can kind of crisp up nicely. There we go. And then I'm going to take a little bit of oregano and we'll sprinkle some oregano on top. That's basil, oregano. So we did Italian seasonings on the bottom and we're going to do some oregano on the top. There we go. And this will pop in the oven at 400, and this takes about 18-20 minutes to cook up. So this and the meatballs should be done right around the same time, which is good news. I'm going to move our meatballs down a layer, and that way the focaccia can have that nice top layer to it. There we go. And then I'm going to set our timer. I'll do it for 19 so we get over here in time. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to give our pasta a little stir right here. And make sure we have none of the noodles sticking on the bottom because they can get stuck on there and then it's hard to clean off. All right, and then I'm going to give my hands a little bit of a wash because they've got a little bit of oil on them. There we go. I always hate it when I get the oil between my fingers. So got to get some good soap on there, really get that off. But for the focaccia, we'll do it. I'm going to turn my pan on to medium, like a medium high, so like a 7. And we're going to put maybe like 2 tablespoons of olive oil in here. And then we're going to dice up a yellow onion for our marinara sauce. So I'm going to cut off the 2 edges here. We'll make a slice down through the middle, remove this whole outer layer. And that way you don't have to work to get any of those pieces. And we're going to give this a dice. And this is going to be the marinara sauce for our spaghetti and mozzarella meatballs today. Just delicious. I'm going to do a nice kind of thin dice on the onions because I want all of their flavor in our sauce. but I don't want it to scream an onion. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to be like chewing the onion. So I want them to be a bit smaller, but have all the same flavor there. And I will say my kids don't complain when they're small. They only complain if you got a big chunk of onion. So you just have them there, and then they just kind of blend. There we go. And we'll slice this one up as well, nice and thin. And our oil should be warming up so we can put these onions in, and we'll let them caramelize up nicely. And then we'll add in our zucchini and some mushrooms for our kind of a little extra veggie in our sauce. My kids, I will say, my son Torin loves mushrooms like me, so we kind of eat the mushrooms ourselves, and my parents love mushrooms. But the other ones all pick around it. But I'm not going to go without the mushrooms because I love them. Here we go. We've got these kind of diced up. I'm going to add them into our oil. There we go. And then let me grab a spoon so we can give it a nice little stir. I'm going to use my little shovel here. And kind of coat all of the onions in the olive oil so that all of their nice, like when they crisp up, they'll all be coated. Okay. Whew. Those onions are strong. Got my eyes a little watering already. Think through, because that must be one of my fresh, I just had groceries delivered today, so that was my fresh thing. And I always keep my onions in the fridge because they stay nice that way. But when I cut them up after they're cold, they don't make my eyes run as much. But if I have them left out or they're room temperature, they really make my eyes water. There we go. Especially ever since I had LASIK. So I want to say like almost a decade ago, I had LASIK surgery. And there's since then, onions really, my husband and I, they really make our eyes water a lot. And just certain things do it. But I'm glad I don't have glasses, I will say. I do like that aspect, but their sunlight, bright lights definitely bother me more than they used to. Okay, we're going to do a nice kind of quarter and a kind of small slice on our zucchini here. That way it kind of just disappears into the sauce. And my kids aren't like, oh, what green thing are you making me eat today? And then we're going to slice up our mushrooms. And these are just baby Bella mushrooms. And I think for just a basic, mushroom, I think they're just delicious. I prefer them over the white button mushrooms. I think they have a bit more of a woodsy flavor, nice, and a little bit more meaty to them. There we go. Give it a nice slice all the way through. We got one more after this, and I always buy, well, most of the time I'm always buying in bulk. So I buy my mushrooms whole versus pre-sliced, and they also last much longer. They stay fresher when they're whole. I find that the sliced ones tend to go a bit slimy. Okay, give this a stir. Let's check our noodles here. Still think they need to have a few more minutes, but give them a stir, and then let's see if we can catch one. There we go. Almost about one more minute, I think. They're almost at that nice, they're a little bit past al dente, so still a bit firm. But I do like to make my noodles right around al dente because I do put them in the sauce and they'll soak up and they get a little bit more tender with that. Okay, I'm going to grab my garlic. It must be in the fridge, and we'll throw that, some garlic in there. Where? Here. I'll grab them with my strawberries we're going to have too as our fruit tonight. But here, we're going to put in about I want to say at least a half a tablespoon. We'll see what my, yeah, about a tablespoon of garlic in here. Give it a nice flavor. We want it to kind of crisp up first before we add any of the other vegetables in it, because that gives you that nice savory flavor in the garlic versus that raw flavor. So always make sure you can crisp it up first before you start adding in stuff. Just makes the flavor profile a little bit nicer. Okay. And grab a little bit of seasoning as well. So kind of the same things in our meatball. And this is just going to make sure our vegetables get a nice flavor to them. So we'll do about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And I like to, again, heat them up with the onions and the garlic and the oil because it really brings out their flavor. And then we're going to do about a teaspoon of basil. And you could use fresh basil if you want. I am excited. I've got 8 basil plants in the ground right now. And so they will, hopefully in a couple weeks, I'll have plenty of basil going. And then we're putting about a teaspoon of Italian spices. We'll give this a nice stir and kind of let those spices get a little aromatic, really bring out their flavors. You really smell it. It's just wonderful. Okay. And now we're going to add in our mushrooms first. We'll let them saute for just a second, and then we'll add in the zucchini. I like to do the mushrooms before the zucchini because zucchini has a lot of water in it, and it sweats its liquid out, and I want the mushrooms to get a little bit of a good fry on them, like a nice saute. Okay, let's push these guys down so they're all kind of touching. And while we're waiting on that, we can cut up our fruit. So let me clear this area off. Keep mine right there. And we'll actually drain our noodles first before we do our fruit because they are just about ready. Check one real quick. But they should be. They've even got the good wiggle. Perfect. So since we're doing a marinara sauce, I'm not reserving any of the noodles or the liquid, the starchy water. There we go. And I have them just in my colander sitting until we'll add them back into our pasta when we put our sauce in here. Helps them get really like flavorful. And I recommend always putting your noodles in your pasta sauce. It's much better, especially if you have leftovers. The flavors there, your noodles don't get sticky and firm. They stay nice and tender. Okay. Let's wipe this down real quick, and then let's cut up some strawberries for our fruit tonight. I always love when Costco has these strawberries in because they taste as if it's like strawberry season right now versus in a couple of weeks. We're getting there, but they're really pretty and they've got a bright red center. Give a nice little rinse on them. And I'll get my bowl. I'll give these a good slice. But these are the ones where I say they have like a nice bright red color inside. They're like the limited edition strawberries there. And they honestly aren't that more expensive than things, but they are much more flavorful. And they're giant. Make some good chocolate covered strawberries with these. There we go. Let's give our mushrooms a quick stir. Okay. Now we're going to add in our zucchini as well. And so this is our 1/4 zucchini. Let it saute up a little bit, and then in about a minute or two, we will add in our marinara sauce. But always saute your veggies up first. Don't just take your sauce and throw in veggies because then the veggies just won't taste that good. Let's have that. You just don't get the flavors out. Okay. And get these sliced up. And then my trick to make strawberries that are just, it's not their season. Like I love strawberries, but fresh in season strawberries are so much nicer. They're so much sweeter. If you just put like not even a teaspoon, like a half a teaspoon of sugar, you just sprinkle it over your strawberries and you let them sit for about 5 minutes. That sugar makes the strawberries sweat out their natural juices and it leads for just the most delicious strawberries, especially out of season. And it's not like you're adding a whole bunch. You're really just, the sugar is just going to start the process of them sweating, and it makes them a lot more flavorful. There we go. We're almost. Look at this guy. He is huge. Cut out those little things. Only problem though, when you get a big strawberry in the middle, they've always burst. It's because they've got too much water at one point in time, and so they grow rapidly. So although they look impressive, they're not as nice as like an even keel medium one where the fleshiness is even all the way through. There we go. And we'll cut up one more. I'll save those for using Evie's lunch tomorrow. Let's give our nice stir. When you're stir, make sure you kind of scrape all of your seasonings off the bottom of your pan so those don't burn. It's kind of like you're deglazing it, especially when you add in the marinara sauce. Okay, we can add in our first jar of marinara. I use Rayo's. Love it. It is not a sweet marinara sauce, which is in like, and it's not a spicy one. It's just really even kill. And I find that it's, out of all the sauces I've tried, it is my favorite. And Costco carries it, so that is also a bonus. But I find that a lot of places they put in sugar in your spaghetti sauce, like the marinara sauce, and I'm not a big fan of sugar in mine. I just like it to be naturally sweet from what's already in the tomatoes. We'll give this a nice stir. And then we're going to add in our second jar. Got them today. And a nice coat it down. Now, once you get your marinara sauce in here, turn your stove down really low because if you have it on high, you are going to get some exploding sauce. That marinara is really thick, and so when the heat escapes, it will cause it to pop. So just turn it down really low and let it simmer versus trying to do a rolling boil on it, because then you'll just get burned. Okay, let's get a little bit of sugar for that's flour, for our strawberries. So I always have my little sugar jar. And when I say you just need a teeny bit, you really don't need much. We're going to do just a nice sprinkle around, and then we'll give them a nice turn, and then just do one more little sprinkle. And it just really enhances the flavor of the strawberries. It makes them much sweeter, but I think the best part is it causes the strawberries to sweat and release their natural juices, which makes them a bit more flavorful. Okay. It was one of those things when I lived in Germany with my foreign exchange family. One of their summer treats was they would have sweet cream with strawberries. And most people think, oh, whipped cream. No, like literally like heavy whipping cream that was sweetened with sugar and vanilla. And then you cut up strawberries in it, and it was so delicious. Okay, let's get these tossed.
I have a question. How do you make the sauce?
The sauce this is just our Rayo's marinara sauce, but we diced up 1 yellow onion, sauteed that up nicely, then added in about a tablespoon of garlic. And then we added in about a teaspoon of Italian seasonings, a teaspoon of dried basil leaves, a teaspoon of oregano leaves, sauteed, stirred those up, cooked them up, then added some mushrooms and zucchini. And now I'm going to give a little taste and see if we need to add anything else. So I start with my base Rayo's marinara. I do occasionally make my own sauce, but we're on a time crunch today. Beautiful. You do not need anything else. I said their base sauce is just delicious. And I will say, one way to really elevate it is to get, I know it's more expensive, but to get it compared to some of the like cheaper brands, it is much better quality and flavor wise. Like you can taste, it just tastes like somebody made it, like some Italian grandma made it for you. Okay, let's go check on our focaccia and our meatballs. So they should be just about done.
You have a question? Do you ever add sugar to your spaghetti sauce?
I do not add sugar to my spaghetti sauce because I do not like, I think the natural sugars in the tomatoes are all you need. I think I'm not a big fan of sweet tomato sauce. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, look at this beautiful pepperoni focaccia. Bring it over here and then we'll grab our meatballs. So this is just gorgeous. This was our quick yeast focaccia that we made using, just flour, a tablespoon of yeast, and some olive oil, water, and salt. Super simple. Took us just an hour to make. We prepped the dough, then we let it do a 20-minute rise. Then you take the dough and you smush it out into the shape of your pan, and then you let it do another 30-minute rise after that. Then we did the fun when we joined here. When I took it out, we covered it with some oil and did the dimpling, and then we seasoned it up today with Italian seasoning, oregano, mozzarella, and pepperoni. So we have just a delicious pepperoni focaccia that we can dip in our marinara. I am going to grab our meatballs since they are done. Whew. Nice and steamy hot.
And you have a question? If your sauce is bitter, what can you add to it?
Okay, so if your sauce is bitter, that would be a case where I would say you'd probably want to add some sugar to it because that sugar can help take out of it. But start with a little bit, but also start with, I feel like if you added like Italian sausage or something like that to bring the richness out, or even put in like zucchini, which could pull out some of that acidity into there. But that is tricky. If it is more bitter, that would be a case where you would add a little bit of sugar to kind of bring it out. That's why I say Rayo's. Got to go with Rayo's. They make it perfect every time. Okay, and we're going to add in our noodles first, then we're going to put in our meatballs because it's a bit easier. Let me grab my tongs. Let me turn off my sauce. Okay, so we're going to first, I always say it's easier to add the meatballs in after the noodles. So you want to make sure you get your noodles all covered in this sauce. So just lots of turning here. Perfect. And then, they always like to jump around. Then we'll tuck each of our little meatballs in here. But I always like to make sure none of my noodles get clumped together. So give it a good stir into your sauce. And this is where I say tongs are your best friend for serving up pasta. There we go. Now we're going to add in our meatballs. And then we'll toss them into the sauce. And it will be ready to serve dinner up. Say pretty quick. Homemade spaghetti and meatballs, homemade focaccia, dinner in like 30 to 40 minutes. I say that's winning. I always, whenever I can get a quick meal out on days that are so busy, instead of having to resort to like fast food or something like that, is always a win. There are some days that you just can't avoid it. Like I know this Thursday we're probably going to do Chinese because we've got tryouts and double soccer too. So it's going to be crazy. But here, let's get these tossed into our spaghetti. I have to pull those noodles up, tuck them into the sauce, get them nice and flavorful. There we go. And you can see those little white spots on our meatballs. That's the mozzarella that's melting inside them. It's going to be scrumptious. There we go. Okay, looks like we are just about ready to serve up. Let me get my Parmesan ready. Went to Costco again. They have this shaved Parmesan cheese there. It is the best. Even my 15-year-old daughter was like, when we ran out, she's like, that's the best Parmesan. You can't buy anything but this, Mom. Okay. So we get our bread knife here. And I'm going to start with our focaccia. I'm going to flip this over and we're going to cut our focaccia on here. This is the nice thing about cooking it on a parchment paper. You can just slide it out and transfer it to a baking or like a cutting board. So here is our lovely, gorgeous focaccia. It's got that nice, steaming, beautiful bubble in it. And it's going to be delicious. Okay, so we've got our focaccia. And let's do our noodles. Add a little bit more. And then we'll do our nice little twist. And then, of course, let's not forget our mozzarella and Italian sausage and ground beef meatballs. So, and of course, you cannot forget the Parmesan cheese. Look at these beautiful flakes of Parmesan cheese. That's why I said this Parmesan cheese is the best. Almost as good as getting it freshly grated, but it's pretty close. Well, guys, thanks for joining us here for our dinner today. We made our awesome focaccia and our spaghetti and meatballs in no time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, hopefully teach you guys something along the way. We do upload all of our videos to the link on the page so that if you want to recreate these recipes at home, you can just go find that video and watch it again and hopefully cook along with me again. And we also offer a membership for those who want a little bit more. We have extra recipe cards, exclusive videos, more stuff about our family in there as well. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.